She beat cancer in the 1960s, and she took it just in her stride. She went into hospital without telling anybody, and it was just reported that she'd gone in for some routine observation, and she had an operation for cancer, and she came home and told very few people about it and carried on as usual. That's what she always did. She said the great secret of happiness in life was to keep oneself busy, and she lived by that rule, especially after the death of her husband. It's rather important, I think, to remember that she had 50 years, half her life, on her own. She was only 51 when he died, or 50, and she lived to 101. She nearly died. She and the king were nearly killed when a German bomber came up the Mall behind me and flew straight over Buckingham Palace and dropped its bombs. And if the windows of the room in which they were talking and standing had been closed rather than open, they probably would have been killed or very badly wounded by flying glass. So it was extraordinarily lucky. And that afternoon, she went straight off to the East End, which had been bombed much more badly, and many, many people there had lost their lives and their homes. And as she did always throughout the war, she went and comforted people instantly when they needed it. And her presence throughout the country in the war, and that of the king, I think was extraordinarily important to the morale of this country. There are certainly letters about Diana, Princess Diana, and the Prince and Princess of Wales' tragic, sad marriage. And she had, like every other person in the family, had welcomed the princess when she first arrived, and she was terribly saddened when it all went wrong. She was very close to Prince Charles, always. She was devoted to him and he to her, but she never cast the princess aside after their parting, and they remained close and they did things together. And she was a sort of a generous grandmother to her as well as to her grandson.